I'm Gary Hoy. Today, July 14, 2008. I moved to Baltimore in the mid-60s. And one of the first things I remembered when I came to Baltimore, one of the first things I saw was a girls' West Country and Western band called Jan and the Roc-a-Jets. They were playing at Pepper Hill, which at the time was probably the biggest, one of the largest gay night spots on the East Coast. They went on to play at Pepper Hill for many years, and then at other bars throughout the Baltimore area. They were an integral part of Baltimore gay life, the gay nightlife scene in Baltimore for more than 40 years. And today we have two of the members of the band here who are going to talk to us about their memories of gay Baltimore and the band through the 40 years they played together.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Carla. I was a drummer with the band for approximately 32 years. That's who I am.
And I'm Joe. I played lead guitar from 1956. It's just Jan and I. And we moved on then to get another woman in. And later we had Carla with alternating with the other drummer for many, many, many years. Of course, Jan's not with us now. She passed away. And Edie, the original drummer, has also passed away. So Carl and I are left.
I'm Michael Makarovich, and we're in Dundalk, which is part of Baltimore City, which is where Joe lives. And I remember going to the Pepper Hill Bar in the mid-'60s, underage, and there were several bars in the Pepper Hill Bar itself, which was on Gay Street, next to the Baltimore City Police Station downtown. And I remember looking at the end of this one bar and seeing this fabulous band, these women in these shimmery, almost tuxedo-like outfits playing this wonderful music. And so one of the things I want you to start with is, will you describe what the Pepper Hill Bar was like?
Well, Pepper Hill was a little later in our career, but it was a very big spot in our career. And it was, back in those days, the men, one was more gorgeous than the other. Men dressed then so beautiful. And you walked in and it was packed. It was always packed. There were nights when they had lines around, and a policeman on the front door and one on the back. Two would leave, two could come in. But they were the nicest men, and it never a problem in there. It was well run by Victor and Ruth Lance, and it was a nice bar. It was kept clean. The people were decent. Never a problem.
What was the setup like? Was there more than one bar?
Yes, there were 3 bars. There was a large circular bar in the center, and as you walked in, I guess it was the main entrance, there was a bar to the right, and then a bar in the back of the bar. It was a huge place, and all 3 bars were always busy, and usually standing room only, like Joe said, you know, people, I forgot that, 2 at a time. And that's kind of, we used to draw a big crowd from D.C.
As I recall, there was no dancing in the Pepper Hill. They were pretty strict about that.
They didn't let the men dance together, but occasionally the women did in the very back bar.
Now, was there a big women's presence in the bar?
No, it was predominantly male. But the male bars were around long before female bars ever started. So Pepper Hill was already established when we went there.
But the Pepper Hill was in close proximity to the block.
Yes.
Did they get many of the
Strippers?
regulars from the block, the burlesque queens?
Sometimes they would come in. Halloween was big. Yes, but it was. But we did fun things too. We had a good time. We did one night. You're gonna love this. One night, Jan and I took some 2 spools of black thread. Now you know the place is packed, as always, and we tied it together. She took one spool and I took the other, and we worked our way through all these guys standing around and tied them all together. You know, they're all going, what the heck? And we just stood back and laughed at them, but that was funny.
We're going to talk a lot about the history of your band, but since we're on Pepper Hill for a while, and that was such a popular bar.
It was popular.
What did you hear about the raid that once happened at Pepper Hill?
Oh, I don't know about Carla, but I have friends that were in that. In fact, the policeman that locked him up lives across the street from me now. He's a very good friend of mine. But yeah, they went in and they marched them right up the street. They were within walking distance.
And that would have been 1955.
That was before we came
It
there.
was the largest bar raid in history of Maryland. 162 people were arrested.
Hmm.
So you knew people that were there that night?
Oh yeah.
And they took the whole bar in?
Oh, they took them all.
The
But
vice,
then-
excuse me, the vice squad was very heavy in those days. They were constantly in there, checking the water in the bathrooms and what have you. And as a matter of fact, when we were working there, there was a complaint out that they thought the band was dressed too masculine. And they demanded that you have at least 3 articles of female clothing on. I don't know if they did strip search or whatever, but anyway, I did this thing, a goofy thing. Of course, I never dressed severely anyway, but I said, well, they want feminine. My mother happened to be a nightclub owner, and my father and mother were both entertainers in town. Anyhow, I took, she had a mink stole that was very well worn, and she had these long gloves. The tips were out. I tried to do something I went in there in total rags, put one of those goofy bows that they have on packages, inexpensive bows in my hair. I looked totally ridiculous, had nylons on, big holes in them. Said, they took pictures of me, a little clutch bag. I looked like a street lady, bag woman or whatever. I just looked like I was all dressed up in the pictures. I look at pictures, I just looked like I was all decked out, We did this for the Vice Squad, for their benefit. And it was just more funny than what I'm saying now. You have to experience. But it was those kind of things. It was almost like they were, the Vice Squad, almost like out to get you. You had to be on your toes. You had to be spotless, and the water had to be X amount of bleach, and then they'd come in with their little, whatever they were, instruments of measuring and what have you to make sure that.
Were they doing this to straight bars?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that,
I guess
but I
that's
know
possible.
there were all, it seemed to be a police presence around a great deal, like almost, you practically, you just didn't know what was going to come down that night, if they were going to have a raid, or there was an intimidation factor, or it was, I would have to say it was anti-gay.
I remember
Very, very much so.
one of my early visits to the Pepper Hill. There was a security guard, and he had sort of a Maryland state flag on his shirt. He had the round type trooper hat. I thought it was a state trooper, and I was very nervous sitting in the bar, because in those days, every time the door of the bar opened, you didn't know whether it was going to be raided,
Correct.
or who was going to be, or who you were talking
Correct.
to. There was a great deal of paranoia, and it wasn't.
Well, if you think that was paranoia, when we get into telling you how it was in the beginning for women, then you will know it was how bad it really was.
Well, tell us about that now.
What was the
Pepper
beginning for women?
Pepper Hill was kind of in the middle. It was already established and pretty well run, like I say, with Victor Lance. But in the early days, when the females first started, which was us, Jan and I got together and we both could play guitar, and we decided to, give it a try. And once we did, it was like floodgates opened up, and women were coming from everywhere. And like I was saying earlier, they'd bring their clothes, go in the bathroom, wet their hair down, comb it back in a DA, put their white shirts on, come out looking very butch. And at the end of the evening, they would reverse that and go home. But they were coming out of the woodwork everywhere. But men, straight men, did not like us at all. And they would come in, and what they would do, first thing they would do is they'd ask one of the women to dance. Well, I don't have to tell you, that started it. And then the men would beat us all up.
Mm.
I mean, it broke Jan's ribs, and she was in jail, and I'm bailing her out, and women are running everywhere. They're using their fists and throwing them out in the streets. And this was a constant thing for us.
Okay, and what year would this be?
That would be in the late 50s, probably. I'm going to say well, Jan and I started in '56, so it would have been '56, '50. For a good many years that went on. In fact, I would say clean up until we went to Pepper Hill in '62 or '63 for the women's bar, and that's what we were doing. When we left one place and we'd go to another, you know, you started another female bar. There was many guy bars. I mean, Leon's was around, Eddie's was around, of course the Hill, Yorktown, but the women didn't have anything.
What are some of the women's bars that you remember?
The first.
Would be Mary's down on Fleet in Washington was the first bar Jan and I together played. And,
Snugs.
Well, we played at
Which was
Snugs.
much later.
Which,
That was Pratt Street?
yeah, we played Snugs. We played almost every place at Fells Point, the Dead End, and Sadie's, and Helen's
2 o'clock
Hollywood
Club.
Dicks. You know,
No, not the 2 o'clock
we
Club,
played
the
on
Circus.
we played
Baltimore
on the
Street.
block. We played at the Circus. We played at Lynn Hope's Diamond. Gosh, I don't.
Was
a million
Faye's Mistake a bar you remember?
Yeah, I remember Faye's Mistake, but we didn't play there.
You were much
They
too
didn't.
young.
Yeah, no, we weren't too young. They didn't. We were
They didn't
busy
have
somewhere else. I think we were playing at Frankie and Ronnie's at that time.
And, okay, this is pre-Reynolds, before the Fells Point big change came. Was Fells Point mainly gay bars in those days before the
Oh
change?
no, they were. Well, in those days, the longshoremen and the stevedores, they all got paid in Maryland.
Mm.
So when the boats would come in, they'd come in with a pocket full of money, and all they wanted to do was have a good time, have a few drinks, and they'd get up and sing with us, and they liked us, which was in our favor. But I mean, they had some good fights down at the Dead End, but they enjoyed their stuff, and there was a lot of polka music during that time, and I had people teaching me how to play polkas, because the Polish people will tell you you're not playing that correctly. And so I had a guy that played sax there at the time. He lived there, and his for his board he worked with whatever band was there.
So you're saying basically, when you went to play at bars,
They
in the
were
early
straight
days,
at
they were
first.
straight at first, and then
Absolutely.
you drew the women in and they changed.
Right. Right.
Now, Carla, we'll want to trace how this band began and the history of it, but for people who've never heard it or anything, what were some of the highlights of your association with the band?
Good chunk of my life. It was all a highlight. I mean, it was just, well, you know how people have this, it's kind of a misconception too. People think if you work in a bar, and then even if you're just a bartender, not just, but if you're a bartender, there's a little bit of showbiz involved in that even, you know. And because we were in a band, we were like the local stars. And it was like people always thought that, you know, it was a party every night. But a lot of times when you would go, you know, you didn't feel good, you had a cold, or whatever. And that's the last place in the world you wanted to go was to a bar and play for 5 hours. But we did it, and we pulled it off. And I guess I mean, we had so many good times, it would be hard, you know, without having a pre-rehearse this thing or whatever. I mean, it's just like when we would rehearse a new tune, we got paid for it. Because we did it, you know, let's try this out, you know, and we, you know, and the next thing you know, we're just playing it. But
Well, what was the music like for people who's never heard it? What was your music?
we played the full gamut. We did top 40, we did cha-chas, we did polkas, we did country, we did rock and roll. You know, we were rockabilly, I think, for the most part.
Old standard
But
music.
every holiday, that's one thing I think I prided ourselves on was, and hearing bands and music of today even. St. Patrick's Day, we did every St. Patrick's Day song that's out there. Christmas, every Christmas carol. You know, 4th of July, New Year's, whatever the holiday, we did all the music. I mean, I've gone to places here of late on St. Patrick's Day, and everybody wants to sing, you know, when Irish eyes are smiling and what have. They don't know the music.
I remember
They
your
don't have
Easter
it.
bonnet. I remember
Yeah.
Eric running around behind the bar. Eric was a
Oh, yeah.
bartender at the Pepper Hill with a huge Easter bonnet on, and you would play in your Easter bonnet, and he would camp.
And that's another thing, bringing up the bartenders at Pepper Hill. They were as involved in the band and so forth as we were, because they'd come up, they'd sing, well, Mickey McCleary, Clarence, he'd get up and he'd sing, and Tubby Boots used to come in. I don't know if you remember him. He'd get up and he'd sing. And,
Oh, Tubby Boots.
Yeah.
He performed on the block. He was
Yes,
a comic on the block.
yes.
Yes.
And I mean, we even had the Colts coming in, would get up at Pepper Hill and sing. I
They
mean,
were fun.
it was a fun thing.
Oh,
It was fun. It really was. But the bartenders, like you say, I mean, heck, we'd do certain numbers and they'd be behind there dancing, and somebody took out a cigarette, they were there with their lighters for them. It was just a great place, Pepper Hill.
It was a fabulous bar, and I remember it seemed that when you left, the business left.
Well, because we didn't leave until they were ready to close, and I used to work across the street from there, my daytime job in the printing, and when they started that ball coming down hitting there, I went over and got a brick. I still have it. I painted it black and I wrote Pepper Hill on it. I still have that brick.
And they came down to build the police station.
Yeah, they.
They replaced it with a police station.
Wow.
In those days when you were first starting out, today it's so funny that one of the earliest gay bars in Baltimore would be on Gay Street. Were people called gay then?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they were called a lot of things.
But
Homo, you know,
we
I don't think gay, probably, I mean, they were pretty nasty times in the early days. I would say queer, faggot.
Yeah, they
What
were
do they
very
like to be
nasty
called
too.
themselves?
We'd rather be gay. We're all gay.
Well, what is, like you were saying before we started this, that you don't like the word lesbian. Why
Because
is that?
it's equated with nigger. It's equated
It's
with
like slander
trash.
to us.
I remember when I was 17 years old or 18 years old or whatever, and there was a gay girl that lived next door to me, and I guess that was my first introduction and even meeting anyone gay, you know, whatever. And we started palling around and what have you. And I'll never forget a neighbor saying to me, everyone knows you're trash. Just because they thought that I was gay. And I thought, trash? But that's what that word lesbian was equated to.
Yeah,
Pervert.
we feel
you
it's
know,
slanderous.
So,
The-
and
it's
like
the
we
women
said,
that have sort of gotten that word. That
They
banned
had the
use of it.
younger
They
ones
demand
have.
the use of it.
See, they don't understand. In her time and my time, life was, you got out of high school, you got married, and you had children, and that was the end of your life. And so, we did. And we each had a daughter, and Jan had a son. And so, we have tried to live straight, like we didn't know what was out there. We knew we were different, but we didn't know why. We just didn't know because you didn't know anybody else.
And how did you and Jan meet?
Jan and I worked at the Eastern Venetian Blind Company together, and I heard that she could play guitar, and at that time I was playing guitar with a group that worked at the hospitals and Korean veterans and so forth. And so we got together at work playing, and then she was working at Sadie's down on Broadway, and I went in there, and they dropped the band a week or so after that. And she said, "Why don't you and I get together?" I said, "Okay," and that's where we went to Mary's.
Around what year would that have been?
That would have been around '56.
Well, now, is it too rude, since this is a historical thing, to talk about your current age, or would you rather not?
It doesn't matter to me. I'll be 74 tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Happy
I'm
birthday.
107.
And Carla, you're about 44.
I'm 71.
Wow.
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 Yeah.
Well, at the end
damn
of
good looking
this month,
71.
July, I'll be 71.
Good looking, both of you.
Absolutely.
Well, you were saying highlight earlier on. I think the highlight, as I think back, we just brought so much joy to so many people.
Correct.
We brought, and these people shared their youth with us. They
Correct.
grew old with us, and we were always there. Every weekend, at least, if not, sometimes we played 5 nights a week, and then Joe and I always had daytime jobs too. Because
And what was your daytime job?
I was the girl Friday. I was the clerical work, office work. In high school, I took the commercial course, and the only thing I did was work in an office, which paid no money, of course. And but I had the legit job, so my life was harder in that respect of being in the closet, so to speak, than Joe and Jen, because they worked in factories, so it was more open, it was more loose. But where I lived and worked in constant fear of losing my job.
Because you could.
You know, and I was intimidated to the nth degree, needless to say.
Did the band play weeknights?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Then you
played,
would play till 2 o'clock and go to work.
right,
Correct.
and take care of our children, our daughters,
right.
yes. But that, you know, the police used to come in and they would take their billy club and hit us like across the chest. Because, and then they'd say, oh, well, I thought you were a guy. But we went through those kind of years, and when the young kids today kind of look down on us because we're older, you know, and I think, gosh, you guys wouldn't have a place to go if we wouldn't have gone through some of the horrors that we went through, and we did. We did.
When we went to work in primarily all straight bars, the crowd would separate. Straight people would sit on one side of the bar, and gay people would sit on the other side of the bar. And eventually, the straight people would leave and it would become a gay bar. So we really did pave the way and made it possible for women of that time to have a place to go, because there really wasn't. So we went in, and that's another reason about that gay word, that lesbian was thrown away by men.
They
used
caused
it
disease and
oh, horrible, just awful, awful, awful. That made, you know, it just
kind of turned us against the word,
yeah,
which
yeah.
they don't have now. The world's different now.
But I think, and I think in these younger women, I think, you know, you're a fool in a way. It's like separate but equal. You know, gay community or gay, guy, gay, it sounds so much nicer than lesbian.
Right.
It really does. So I said, well, what does
Sounds
that
like
mean?
an insect
Does that
or
mean
something.
that if you're a lesbian, you're not gay? You know, because gay community pretty much now just refers to the male segment of the gay
Yeah.
community. I think it should all be gay.
But I think it's the lesbians that have made that point. They're the ones that have separated.
Yeah, they have,
They have,
and
they
which
are.
is totally ridiculous because, I mean, our best times were like at Pepper Hill. We loved the guys,
It was mixed.
and yeah, and we had great times. But you know, I think back before we lose too much time, we did a show at the Civic Center with, I think it was 90-some bands from the East Coast. We came out 5th in that, which is darn good. And Jan, who had the voice, said, there's never been a voice like hers. Never. This girl, her voice was thunder lungs. And I made a lot of money off of her voice, you know. I couldn't sing. But she would do songs that, you know, that people will, if you bump into them now, they will remember you yourself did. But it's like, I said one time, I wonder what I was put on this earth for, you know? There's gotta be a reason. Somebody said to me, you know what? You made a lot of people happy. You got memories for people that they'll never forget. You started the female, and when I say you, I mean plural, our group. You know, these people have memories and things that happened that would have never occurred, or maybe would not occur for a long time.
And good memories.
And good memories.
I have many.
Yes.
And one thing I remember is that if someone came up to you and requested a song, you would play it within 2 or 3 songs. You'd
You
hear
know,
that song.
but yeah, because and if we didn't know it, we did it anyway. I mean, people say, do you know? One night somebody asked if we could do. I can't think of the name now of the song, but it was an instrumental.
Even?
No, it was an instrumental. But anyway, I said, give me a minute to think of it. Can you hum me a line? And they would, you know, oh, okay. And we'd just go on and, you know, we did the best we could with it. And we usually worked it out.
What, do you remember some of the amounts of money you were paid?
Be careful.
Well, this is the
The
part.
IRS is gonna get this.
Yeah.
When was
That's
the
the
range?
part. That's the part that's a little scary. We, Jan and I made $12 a night in '56
For 5 hours.
for 5 hours work. We got a contract at the Rally Club, which was up the street. You wouldn't remember that. It was up the street from Cicero's, but we worked at Cicero's also. In fact, we worked at Cicero's, Rally Club, and Mary's all in the same week.
Was Cicero's really the roughest bar ever in Baltimore?
Cicero's, yes.
Where was it?
It was on
Forest.
Forest Street, correct.
Where?
Forest
Forest.
Street, near the Bel Air
Down in the
Market.
middle of the city, yes.
Near the Bel Air
In
Market.
East
Yes.
Baltimore?
Old Town.
Vince
Okay, maybe local.
Cicero owned that. Yeah, it was a little rough. For instance, one night we were playing and there was a sailor in there, and he said something to Jan. Well, Jan was always ready to protect whatever. He said something to her, and she replied something, which I won't say. And he got so damn angry, he went outside and he beat up this girl, Marlon, that used to hang here. He beat her up. So, I mean, that's the kind of, place that was.
Now, I mean, did people get stabbed there or anything? 'Cause
Oh, I'm
I've heard
sure
stories like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an even better idea. We had one of our customers that had followed us there. She went into the bathroom, and this is the truth. She went into the bathroom, and there was one of the prostitutes were in there, and another one was giving her an abortion on the floor.
Oh, my goodness.
She had to step over.
That was
Cicero.
Well, I had told that one time someone dragged me into the men's, one of the restrooms.
Yeah,
And somebody came in and just bent their finger all the
yeah,
way
they
back
do.
and robbed
They
them.
did. Oh, when the guys would dress.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they gave them such a hard time.
So what percentage of the people at Cicero's when you were there would have been gay?
But there were very few then there. In fact, they were kind of a little rougher than us. See, in those days, things were totally different too. For instance, the butches, when they came out, you couldn't get work. As Carla said, you just couldn't do it. You had to look straight and be straight. So they were coming to work at places dressed like men and went in as men and would work in warehouses and pretend they were men. It was that bad for them. Or they would hook up with a prostitute. The prostitute would work and support them. So the women went through a living hell. They really, really did in the early days. They really had a hard time.
So we interrupted you because it's so great to hear about Cicero's firsthand. What kinds of money were you getting as the
You're
band,
really
as the years
interested.
went? Well, people will want to know
Well,
how-
okay.
what was success. What did that mean on a local level?
Well, we never got rich, that's for sure. We did make, when Jan had quit, we were only making $50 a piece a night.
What year would that be?
That would be in the 90s.
Okay.
But the reason for that is the owners felt that they had to charge on the door if they gave us more money. And we didn't want them to charge on the door because they were our friends. During the week, whatever, we may get together and have a party. You don't go to parties with these people, cookouts, I should say, and then charge them to see you when you've been sitting at their house, sitting there playing. You just couldn't do it.
So you played places other than bars.
Oh yeah, we played around a lot.
Did you ever play the Zodiac?
Oh yeah, played the Zodiac. We played everywhere.
I was
What
in the
was the
Zodiac.
Zodiac?
It was a gay bar on Bond Street.
Right.
But I remember they had a funeral in there one night I walked in, and it was a drag funeral.
I don't remember that now. I didn't play there long. Jan's son, Donnie, played there.
Excuse me, this brings up a point, you probably know where I'm going with this. You said it was a gay funeral?
A drag funeral.
It was because I lost my mother. No, I didn't lose my mother. She had a massive stroke while we were working at the Zodiac. And it was a gay motorcycle club in town called the Renegades, wasn't it? Donnie played
Yeah,
it.
that was ours. I was in
And
it.
my mother was
You were in it?
Yeah,
You
she was
drove a
my mom was
motorcycle?
only
Till I messed up my legs.
56, so we had a hard time getting any kind of help for it. But that gay motorcycle club had a benefit at the Zodiac. That's when I thought maybe we had,
And
because
this was actually, the pallbearers were all in tuxedos.
I did that.
you did it.
I did it.
And it was a 50-50, and Blaze Starr knew my mother very well. They both showed
Famous Baltimore stripper.
Yeah, well, my mother worked at the 408, and Blaze worked at 2 o'clock, and they knew each other. And with the money they collected, they got my mother a electric hospital bed, and this gay motorcycle club brought it to the home and had it sold because my father was having a very difficult time, because he was only 56 years old. There was no help available, or Medicare and stuff like that. So that was the Zodiac, happened at the Zodiac. And Lake
But
Star
then
was
I'd like to interject there is, her mother and father did work, as a team, in the early days. But Blaze Starr is one of the most wonderful people you ever want to meet. And I went up to her club and I said to her, I said, you know, we got this benefit together for Ruth Cruz, which was her mother, and we'd like you to come and draw the winning number. She says, oh my God, Ruth Cruz, oh, I really would like to do that, but my show's on next. And then she says, the hell with it. She's all dressed, she brings one of her other dancers, and they come up to the club to draw, especially for Ruth Cruz, draw that number, which we sold many more tickets once she came in, you know, to do that. So, you know, a lot of times people don't really know people. A lot of times they think that they're less than they themselves are, but what a wonderful thing to do.
So your band went until the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
What were some of the last places you played?
We played at Rumors. The last that Jan played with us was at Rumors.
Which
Where
is,
was
Was on Lombard Street, which is no longer there.
at
Yeah.
Haven.
The Haven,
At
No.
Haven.
at Haven, Lumber and Haven.
Yeah.
was that a
Well, was-
gays club? A gay club?
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it started as a gay club,
And that was in the 90s.
yes,
What
Right.
was, okay.
He played for quite a few years at Birds of a Feather.
which was Yorktown.
Well, one was on Fells Point, I think. He had Birds of a Feather on Fells Point.
We played at Sadie's, we played at Helen's Hollywood Disco, we played where Ledbetter's is now,
I was
used to
gonna ask
be.
you if you played that.
Yeah, that was Blanche's.
Blanche's.
We played,
How long were you at Blanche's?
you know, I don't even remember. I don't know, we played Dead End for a few years.
And we did private things, we did American Legion,
Oh, yeah, we
you
did.
know, places like
And
that.
you
Bull
mentioned
Roast.
Edith Massey.
Oh,
my
Edith
goodness.
Massey.
Yes, tell us about
Bless her heart. Sit that over there. Edith had a little shop down there, Edith's shopping bag. Yeah, she was awesome.
that. And for
uh,
people who may not remember, Edith Massey was John Waters' film star. She was the egg lady in Pink Flamingos.
She was discovered at Pete's Tavern, or Pete's Saloon in Fells Point as a bar. She works as a barmaid, and that's where John Waters discovered her.
oh, he's great.
But she was in many John Waters films, and at one point, was this in the 80s, there was to be her birthday party at the Alcazar?
Every year she had a birthday party,
Oh.
and she sold tickets to it.
Yeah,
And
she
it
was
at
awesome.
the Alcazar.
And this was her debut, her singing debut. I don't know if you can get it or not, but the Roc-a-Jets played her singing debut at the
And I
Alcazar.
recall she sang Big Girls Don't Cry.
She also sang Rhinestone
Rhinestone
Cowboy,
Rhinestone
yeah.
Cowgirl, I remember that.
She was awesome. John was, there's another one that was such a great guy. You know, I mean, he foresaw a lot of things.
Edith at one time was actually hired. They flew her out to Northwestern University to lecture on filmmaking. Now, I don't know what they thought they were getting, but it must have been something when she got there and started lecturing these students. I mean, she still had her one tooth at that time.
I know.
She also worked on the block, she was one of the block girls.
Oh, yeah, she was a big girl.
Yeah.
Were there ever, do you have any recordings of Jan and the Roc-a-Jets?
I have some tapes that customers would make, and so they're not good. You know, it may be one that sits in front of the drummer,
Yeah.
then maybe because like Carla said, you're popular when you're in the band, so we had a lot of interest from females, you know, and so if one particularly like Carla, they would sit the little tape recorder up by Carla, so you would hear drums over top everything else, and Jan had the same thing, and myself, you know, the same thing. So they're not really good. I could look through them and see if I could find some that had a better balance, and see what I could
Well,
do
let's
with that.
interject a little sex into this. Now, did you go out with some of the fans that,
I will tell you this, we were squeaky clean. And so
Oh.
there's no interest there. We never, ever got mixed up. Wait a minute, Jan did once. Jan did once. She
Not fair, she can't defend herself.
yeah, oh God, she got drunk one night.
Oh, she
And
was something when she was drunk.
Oh my gosh, we went down on the block and we'd watch the dancers a lot of times on break. So we were
Now,
down,
some of those dancers were gay, weren't they?
Oh, yes.
some
Or
of them
many
were,
of them?
some of them
Many.
were butches.
Many.
Yeah.
And they would
And-
hang, a lot of them hung at the
The
Pepper Hill.
strippers.
Yeah, cause they needed to,
I remember
they needed income.
I was at the Pepper Hill one night with these friends of mine, Mary, who later ran a Western goods store up on,
Okay,
Street,
yes,
Mary
I know that, Mary Blackwell,
and at the time she was dating a very well-known burlesque star.
and I know who
And
that,
this
she's
was a-
still around.
Well, she toured. I mean, she
Store
was.
Marquee.
No,
She was no. Kim Christie.
Kim, yeah.
But Kim was a headliner, and she toured the circuits. But they were in there one night. We were drinking champagne. We used to sit at the back bar and drink champagne. And it was Kim and I and Mary, and these straight people from the block came in, couples, and they were sitting there. And Kim got up to go to the bathroom, and she asked them. She said, "Excuse me," and they didn't move. And she said, "Excuse me again," and they didn't move. And I wasn't paying attention to this. Well, Mary got up and she pulled the bar stools out from under these guys. They were on the floor.
Mhm.
And she said, "God damn it, when she says move it, you move it. And get out of here and take your baggage with you," meaning their wives. And they hightailed it out the door. I mean, Mary was the sweetest person in the
Yeah.
world. I mean, nobody, she would have heard a flea.
Mhm.
But someone had done something to Kim and she wasn't going to have it.
Mhm.
Well, if you were squeaky clean and you weren't going out,
You
who
want
were
the
you
nitty
with?
gritty,
You
and
want
I
the
can
dirt.
tell that.
Who,
Well, let me
what
tell
were
you-
your relationships then at the time?
Okay, we first of all, let me tell you what Jan did this night, because
Oh, right.
we went up to the block, and Bunny Holiday was one of the headliners at that time, and I left and went home, whatever, and usually that's the way we were. We got off from work, we went home, because we had to get up and go to work the next day at our daytime job. But anyway, Jan calls me the next day. She says, "Jesus H." I said, "What?" She says, "I took Bunny Holiday home. I woke up, her face was on the pillow. That was the ugliest person I ever saw."
Well, she's
I don't
lucky it was a
believe
woman.
it. Yeah.
But a lot of the dancers were men. In the
I
block.
know,
I
I
have a couple
know.
of friends who danced on the block.
As a matter of fact, we were playing on the block, and this was at the time when males were getting changed into females, and we're playing. We're in the center of the circus bar, and there's a circle bar there, and then there's like booths going up, which we got to see
High
a lot of stuff.
I know.
But the guy, because we were working, the dancers and so forth from the other bars on the block would come over. And they just loved it. They didn't have to work, so they just loved it. So they'd come there, and here's this guy, gorgeous guy, and he's up there dancing. Well, he wanted to show what he had. So he's laying on the bandstand, and she's behind me. Jan's on this side of me. The fellow's laying down here, and I'm looking. You can see down inside there, you know, he's nude. And the drums, all of a sudden, all I'm hearing is on the cymbal. And I look, and here's Carla leaning over my shoulder, trying to see down inside of there.
Well, it's called the circus bar. You know?
Yeah, we had Jan was a little busier than me.
But then, while all this was happening, you had a girlfriend?
Yeah, we
for many
always
years?
had. I was going with a girl for 11 years at that time. I've maybe gone all together with 5 different ones in
And
my life.
How long is your current relationship?
Well, Robin and I just started 5 years ago. Prior to that, the girl I was with was 21, almost 22 years, over 21.
How about you, Carla? What have your relationships been like?
Do I look like the type? Look, we were all into long-term relationships. Well,
Yeah.
I have 26 years, 14 years, and it's a
Wow.
practically a whole lifetime. But one thing I want to say too, when Joe was talking about we were squeaky clean, I think part of our success and our longevity, we didn't do any drugs.
No, we didn't.
Ah.
We never
There were
touched
no drugs in our where there were other female bands that came after us.
Oh, yeah.
There was a place downtown called, I can't think of it now, just left me. where the rest-
Flamboyant?
What?
Flamboyant?
Oh, we played there
We
too.
played
No, that was,
there. Oh, you did.
no, it was over where Camden Yards, it was, what was that place called? It was called the Rubber Band or something.
Yeah,
And the girls were good,
yeah.
but they were strung out, they were all,
You played benefit at Flamboyant once when the owner was shot?
Sure, Mickey.
I was there for
They
that.
grew
She
up
was my
together.
But tell people where the Flamboyant was and what it was like.
Fayette, wasn't it Fayette, Utah, or something like that?
Yes.
Utah Fed,
I think so,
yes.
yeah.
It's now it's still a stripper bar.
Yeah.
It was a pretty decent club, I think.
Yeah, but I remember I went to a crab feast there as a benefit for the owner because she had been shot.
Yeah,
And,
She lost her
I
leg.
played there, yes.
Well, she was my neighbor, as I said earlier on in the interview. She was the first gay woman that I met, and that was the
Oh,
owner, it
yes.
was Mickey. Miss Alice, yeah. She's still around, she lives in Pennsylvania now, but, yeah.
Now, how about this stereotype that I saw the owner of Club Mitchell do this? I was there with a friend, a gay woman, and the owner came up to her and said, "I've been watching you for an hour and a half, and you've had one soft drink, and I'm in business to sell drinks. Is there any truth to the thing that gay women don't buy booze enough in bars?"
they do, but the younger folks, the younger girls, or I guess guys too, they don't drink as much as we did because I suspect that they may be into other things, or in our day, women didn't make the money that men make. So we didn't get the spenders that, I mean, the men would come in and,
Set the bar up.
yeah, they set the bar up and they'd leave a $5 tip, you know, here and there. And the guys tip with every drink.
Yes.
That's the way they do. Women tip at the end of the night.
Now,
But it's not that women drink less, it was just harder
No.
to afford.
They
Financial.
It's not because they're gay women that they drink less.
Right,
tips
right.
were never a part of your income.
Well, at times that we did get a lot of tips. At times we made more tips than we did working.
Now, we have about 15 minutes left. I was wondering if you would show some pictures and talk about them, but
Okay.
of
This,
course, I'm going to have to let Jamie
Okay.
film it.
let me see here what I can do.
Was there any union involved in this? Did you have to belong
No,
to
we
a
didn't
union?
do a union.
And you never had any trouble with that?
We didn't do a union.
We were actually sometimes meeting.
Now,
That-
wanting to
tell
union
us
issues
what
that-
we're
That's
seeing
the
here.
one, this is the one that everybody seems to see, which I hated because Jan made me put a curl there in my head.
Bill Haley.
These were taken during the days of working at the Combo on West Baltimore Street, and we were on the radio, and people wanted pictures, so we had some professional pictures taken.
So who are these people? Can you identify them left to right?
Okay, this is Jan, myself, and that's the original drummer, Edie.
Okay.
I remember Edie.
Okay, you have another picture?
Well, I have plenty of pictures which are,
Now, what radio
And this is
station were you
Joe.
on, do you recall?
What's that?
What station you were on?
probably WBMD.
Oh, it was country.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
No.
yeah.
that Johnny's used car lot sponsor.
Oh, Johnny's.
Yeah,
Now
Johnny's.
we can show Joe how you haven't changed at all, having the picture next to you.
Yeah, they're probably the most
Who
popular.
is this?
That's Edie.
So Edie was the drummer before Carla.
Right.
How long was Edie the drummer?
Oh, off and on through the same amount of years as Carla because they switched off a lot. And this was other band pictures. They wanted postcards and stuff like that, so we had them made.
A book I saw recently on Baltimore bands you were featured in, and they said you were offered a recording contract.
Oh, we were offered all kinds of contracts. This.
Can you tell us what we're seeing in this
Okay,
picture?
this is, of course, Jan, myself, Edie, and this is a young man that played in Baltimore in a Dixieland band. but he wasn't making any money, and he came in one night and wanted to know if he could sit in with us and stay with us for a couple months. He was a good player.
Do you have any old pictures of Carla?
There's a, upstairs, can you run up and get that picture of the three of us upstairs on my thing in the living room,
And
please?
tell us what's in this picture and I'll let Jamie go.
Well, this was taken down dead end many years back.
And our photographer today is Jamie Andrew. We forgot to mention that.
You may want to take Victor and Ruth's shot there.
Yes. Now tell us who Victor and Ruth are.
They own Pepper Hill.
And what was Mary's position there? She
Mary-
was his sister, I know.
She was his sister, and I believe she had some financial input in the place, but I'm not positive.
She worked the door, I believe, a lot.
She worked, she was working wherever actually they needed her.
Here's another one.
And this is
So
Carla.
what we're seeing here is Victor and his wife Ruth. Somebody said she was as glamorous as a showgirl.
Oh, absolutely a
Well,
knockout.
Victor was a good looking man.
Yeah,
Very
he was good looking.
distinguished
They both dressed all the time. That's Carla there, behind the drums.
Didn't Clarence tend bar there at one time too?
Yeah, he tended bar all the time. We were good friends clean till
I like Clarence.
he died. Yeah, I like Clarence too. We worked together.
Tell us about your lead guitarist.
That's me.
Oh, that's you. Well, this isn't you here.
That's Jan.
Oh, that's Jan.
She
Okay.
played rhythm guitar and sang
Oh, okay. So his lead guitar, rhythm guitar, and drums.
drums.
And Jan did the singing.
Jan did most. She was the singer.
What light? Oh, sorry.
So I did some rockabilly singing, but I'm far from a good voice. And Edie sang. Edie sang old standards, and she sang gorgeous stuff, gorgeous music.
And you said that you were offered contracts.
Oh, we were offered contracts all the time. In fact, we took one at the Rally Club. We had a contract there to make $160 a piece a week. And to put it in perspective, my daytime job for 40 hours, I made $28 clear.
A week?
So that's a big jump.
Yes.
But I still hung on to that little job.
Now, were you a Baltimore girl were you born in Baltimore?
Yeah, I was.
What section?
I was born in Lexington Street Market, way back. Yeah, there was a Volunteers of America hospital that used to be hooked onto the market,
Cool.
and that's where I was.
And where did you go to school?
We went to more schools than we went grades, but I went to St. John the Baptist, St. Rosa Lima.
You went to St. Rosa Lima? I went to
Yeah.
St. Rosa Lima
You did?
in Brooklyn.
I spent my teen years in Brooklyn.
Ah,
I loved it.
and then where did you go to high school?
Glen Burnie.
Okay. And Carla, were you born in Baltimore?
No, I was born in Pittsburgh,
Where's
Pennsylvania.
that picture?
I couldn't find it.
Sitting right
You had it.
on the
You had me
table.
hidden. You took it. Yeah.
It's on the end table.
We can get it later, maybe. What, when did you come to Baltimore? At what age?
As a child, by
These are pictures of
let's see
Carla.
what age. I was probably between 1 and 2 years old, very young.
Tell us more about what schools you went to, Carla, because we're looking at a picture of you.
Well, I went to St. Ian's Elementary School at 22nd and Greenmount. I went to Eastern High School, and I went to the University of Baltimore at night for accounting. And then I went to the Roc-a-Jets.
But how did you
You
know?
made the big time.
Made the big time.
How did you know how to play the drums?
Well, my mom and dad were in showbiz. Like I said, my mother and father liked Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. My dad brought Latin American music to Baltimore. Just before the Second World War, he had worked with Xavier Cugat's band in New York, and my mother was widowed at a very young age in Pittsburgh. My dad was killed, and she brought us all back to Baltimore. And my grandmother sent my mother to get her sister out of a club down in downtown Baltimore, where my dad, before who was, well, I call him my dad, he's the man that raised me, so he's my dad, was working, and they became an item and got married and what have you, so I was always around, raised in music. And it just came natural, just a blessing.
Well, you're talking about contracts and so forth. Jan was such a great singer. Jimmy Dean wanted her on his show in Washington, D.C., and Jack Parr wanted her to come on to his show, and we had offers of the Grand Ole Opry, but that comes back to raising children. I wouldn't leave my daughter to go away, take a chance and go away, and Jan wouldn't get dressed. She was not going to put a dress on and be on that show. And they didn't want her to come in slacks. They wanted her to look feminine. Country music they had long hair and long dresses, and she wasn't about to do that.
What were some of the best songs she sang?
Oh my gosh, Without Love, This Time You Gave Me a Mountain, Since You've Gone, and any country song you can imagine. And she did all Patsy Cline's songs. She was good. The girl was so good. She had a voice that rang like a bell, and even though she was from West Virginia, every word,
Diction.
Oh, yes.
her diction.
What part of West Virginia was she from?
Parkersburg.
Parkersburg.
How old was she when she went a year ago, you said?
Yeah, so let's see, she was 2 years older than me. She was 74 when she died.
And when did she leave Baltimore?
Oh gosh, in the late 90s.
So the band, it's been at least 10 years since the band has played.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd like to get back together with the band again and perform?
We talked about it. In fact, we come down here one night when Jan came to town visiting, and she got all her drums, which she gave to her grandson, who's into music, set them up. We set the amplifiers up, and we did a couple songs, and it was like we never missed a beat.
You could have filled the hippo.
Well, you know, we
The
were
return.
offered to come back, but Jan was having trouble singing. She would get congested real bad, and so she'd start singing, and she would get like coughing. So, which could have worked its way out if you would continue doing it. And I just thought that we would be. Today's music has so much electronics, which we didn't have all that. You know, you could play today. You can play one or two notes, and the guitar keeps playing for you. Oh, and the
drum
drums
machines.
were mic'd.
We had, none of our instruments were mic'd.
We didn't have any, even the
Everything's
microphones.
mic'd.
I mean, most of the time we sang through our amplifiers. You know, we
Did you
didn't
ever
have that.
Did you ever do any original songs?
Yeah, Jan's son wrote quite a few, and Edie wrote quite a few.
Edie.
Edie, the drummer,
The drummer,
the
yeah, the
original drummer. She wrote a couple that were really good. And Donnie, his songs, Jan's son, a couple of his songs. Our friend Frankie Ford, who sang Sea Cruise, Won't You Let Me Take You on a Sea Cruise? He's a friend of ours. He put two of Donnie's songs on one of his CDs. So.
Did you
writes
ever appear on Baltimore television or Baltimore radio?
Radio, yes. Television, no.
So would you have played on the radio or be interviewed
It was
or?
live.
Yeah,
It was live.
Yeah.
They were playing in a club there.
Oh, okay. So now as we wrap up, if people look at this, whether it's 5 months from now or 50 years from now, what would you like them to think about? What was the thing that Jen and the Roc-a-Jets means in the history of Baltimore music or Baltimore gay history? Where do you want to be sitting?
We were the pilgrims.
Tiny.
We were the pilgrims for the girls. We paved the way for them, and we're glad we did. We've had a wonderful life. I mean, the memories that we have and we've given.
The people that we meet through the years to
Yeah.
this day.
They'll bump into you and say, "Oh, I remember." And Jan sang "Without Love," or something to that effect. And I remember those were the days, and they were.
And it was such fun.
They were fun.
Thank you so much.
They were so much fun.
I enjoyed it as probably more than most people. I was here every Friday night.
I saw when you came in the door, I saw that face, and I could see it in the sea of men because I did, the minute I saw you, I recognized you, and thank you.
Thanks for sharing your memories with us.
Well,
and,
thank you, and thank you.
And
so,
It's an honor.
like I said,
All right.
she took the lead because she's the history.
she's
You know, I
the-
just, they had so much
So
time
much
together.
history.
To the Beatles, as it was.
Oh yeah, they did that on Pepper Hill too. Victor had us down as ladybugs for a while.
Baltimore, yes.
Yeah,